Hi, Leslie Hirschberger here. I'm going to talk about supporting body types during this pandemic. Body types are types 8, 9, and 1. And actually, it's kind of funny. My partner's a body type, and this morning our power went out again. This is the second time our power went out. It went out last week for 36 hours. It's out again today. And as you can imagine, if you're a body type, the first emotion that arises is anger, because anger is a more familiar emotion and it feels less vulnerable than sadness, than fear, which are the predominant emotions of the other two Enneagram centers. So your themes, if you're a type 8, 9, and 1, are exaggerated feeling, and that feeling is in the body. A lot of people will say, well, the heart types are the feeling center. The heart types have sensors to other people's feelings in order to shapeshift, in order to make a connection. For body types, it's my own feelings. They feel like overwhelm. So that's a predominant theme for you. Anger is the core emotion. Issues of power, all three types in the Enneagram body triad. And who am I? You are the self-forgetting triad. So I want to talk a little bit about it first, just talking about this thing around feelings. And what happens for all of us, regardless of our type, is feelings arise, emotions arise. They come and they go. And every emotion has some sort of physical correspondence. Like if I feel tense, might feel tightness in my jaw, kind of tightness in my neck. I'm a head type. So because I have so much mental energy, what happens for me is I feel ungrounded. In fact, I came to the office today because I was like crazy after being inside all weekend for Easter. It was a lot of emotion, a lot of depth, and I started to, what happens for me is that there's a lot of mental energy and it kind of goes crazy up here. That's not how it is for you. Feelings it doesn't mean you don't have any mental energy, particularly if you're a 1. But what happens for your center is the body gets overwhelmed by these feelings. So it's unlike heart types, which they start to have a feeling and I spring into doing, which you can do too. You have this tendency more to want to eliminate it, want to get rid of the feeling, want to push it down, want to control it. Sometimes you've probably gotten feedback where you may not even know when you're angry. You tend to have this strong sense of, I like it, I don't like it. This is good, not good. And so it's these strong instinctual reactions. And a lot of times, your like, not like is a judgment of goodness, a judgment of badness. It's sometimes like disturbing, like if you're a settled 9 or 1 and you want things to be a certain way, some sort of strong hit is going to have you making strong determinations on bad or good. And what happens is a lot of blame arises out of that. Do you notice that about yourself? Where blame can so instinctively arise. Why is that? Well, your undigested feelings from the past kind of get carried over to the future. So it's kind of like if you had an annoying interaction with your barista a few years back, somebody does something similar, you feel the strong hit. And depending on 8, 9, or 1, you're going to react to it in a different way. Because you get stuck emotionally in the past, because your feelings tend to be digested, they hang out for too long, they're unprocessed, and they seemingly pop out of nowhere. It's a gut reaction. Does that resonate for you? Because I really like to hear from you and share with with us below. So it's kind of like this feeling versus judgment. Judgments of situations come overly quickly. And the work for the body type, your buried function is perception. So sometimes it's important for you to reflect on your instinctual judgment. Observe it. Notice it. Pay attention to where do I feel that in my body? Well, my heart feels contracted. My jaw feels tight. Breathe. Slow. Okay, what's going on for me? Because sometimes when one body type goes, I feel really bigly. If you feel really bigly, it could be a reminder of some sort of past unfinished business. You're prejudging something in the present based on an experience you had in the past, and you can lose nuance. You get stuck in this kind of blame, kind of narrow way of looking at it. So the one thing I would say to you is just practice, do this right now. What if you could say, like, look at me here. And what if I said to you, hey, I see you. I see what's going on for you. You know, I'm really sorry about that. I'm sorry how this pandemic is affecting you. It's a lot. Notice what happens in your body. Pause. Breathe. Notice your breath. What are your personal wants right now? What do you need right now? What do you notice you're instinctively judging as good or bad right now? Because what can happen is when you get kind of locked in that, you can get real stuck in and it's almost kind of like the feeling gets ossified. Remember petrified wood? I remember learning about petrified wood when I was a kid. It kind of gets just right in your body. And so to pay attention to these strong judgments, and I have to tell you, the way out, like everyone else, the way out is through. And you need to accept your feeling. You need to notice it. And what I've experienced with body types, their instinctive sense is just like kind of an annoyance with the feeling. Do you notice that right now? There's an annoyance that I'm having a feeling. And underneath that, there are softer feelings. I sometimes wonder, with body types, when I'm present to their feelings, it almost kind of opens their heart. It's almost like they need to be seen by an outer person. And so reflect on who sees you, who's able to really see you as you are to yourself. And there's a softness and a gentleness and a kindness underneath that protective shell. And what happens for a lot of body types will tell me there's this feeling that if I open myself up, particularly in the presence of another, to these softer feelings, I'll feel unprotected. And somehow you'll have the upper hand. You're going to take advantage of me. And that's a story you tell yourself. All right? And when you tend to sort for times and memories where you have felt taken advantage of, where you felt like someone had the upper hand. Does that resonate for you? Just notice right now in your body. Pause. Breathe. Does that resonate? Because in this space, notice when, you want to be comfortable again. You want to get back to where I was, like crying feels like weakness. Pay attention to feelings that feel like overwhelm for you. Be kind to yourself. And I would say, like when you're living with others right now, because you're in a confined space, have you noticed how your anger is rising? And in my experience with body types, especially nines, who seem so peacemaking that when they get to what they want, they really get into an either or stance as well. People get conflated into one thing, including you. You do this to yourself. You beat yourself up. And so for you, it's really important to hold the paradox of yes and. I felt this and I felt that. That person at the counter or at the grocery store or the healthcare worker or whoever I had to go to where I felt vulnerable. Yeah, they forgot to bag my groceries the way I asked them to bag them. And they're stressed. And there's a lot on their plate right now. Yeah, I bit off that person's head. Oh, I hate when I bite off people's head. Yes, and you're stressed. And you're going through a lot right now. Can you give yourself a little grace? Because when you can give yourself a little bit of grace, you can give other people some grace. So the other thing for you is if you're feeling irritated in these close quarters with other people, you might name, look, hey, the irritation's in me. This isn't about you, and I'm just looking for a place to plant my anger. The other day, something happened to me, and look at my language. It happened to me. It's kind of a body type language. It happened to me. Someone did this to me. I wanted to get together with my daughters last week. It was the before Easter, and we were going to do a ritual together. I wanted to get together with my daughters, and they're worried about me. One of my daughters knows someone who has the virus, and they felt they needed to steer clear of me. And when they told me they couldn't come, I felt this rise of anger. So the work is to not slime my daughter with my anger, because she's actually really just trying to take care of me, and it's out of kindness. Rather, it's to breathe, notice my anger, and not do any damage with it. And what I noticed with the anger, guess what it was sitting right on top of? It was sadness. Sadness that I couldn't see my daughters, sadness that I couldn't do this Holy Week ritual that we've always done. We've always really liked Holy Thursday, Good Friday. I was really bummed. And what I found was that my work was to work with the feeling of being sad. So it might be going out into nature. I have a friend who's an 8, and I remember her just saying, just lean against a tree. Breathe and just feel the solidity of support from the tree. It just feels like, I don't have to do this all by myself. It's like the ground can hold me. The tree can hold me. You've probably noticed this about yourself, but you really respond to nature. Like if you're a 1, it's not like you can go out in nature and say, I think that tree needs to move slightly to the right. And that bush, shouldn't be growing there. You just accept the imperfection you're the perfection of imperfection. It just is. So the other thing you can do right now is, as you come home and breathe, just kind of look around the room. All right, I'm one person in this room. And what I notice inside myself when I do that, okay, all right, it gives me some perspective. All right, I'm Leslie. I'm right here. There's other things in this room. Outside my window is a tree. There's clouds. I don't feel so overwhelmed by my own stuff when I look around. It's called orienting, and it gives you some perspective, particularly if you're a body type and you're kind of locked in your own stuff. Head outside, look around the room, touch things, feel that ground. The other thing body types tell me is very helpful for them is journaling. Because you tend to not digest your feelings. There was one who I was working with, and she said, well, I don't want to write them down, because what if somebody finds them? What if I die and somebody finds them? One of the things I said is journal your anger, journal, go sit outside and burn it. Take your journaling page and burn it. Watch it move. Watch the anger. It's almost like watching it metabolize. Then it's not all sitting, gunky in you, and you've acknowledged it, particularly if you're a 1. 1s and 9s have a harder time acknowledging their anger than 8s. Not always, but usually. So burn it. And if you don't burn it, sometimes I advise keeping it for a while, because I find when I go back and reread where I was then, I give myself a little bit of compassion. It's like, man, that time was hard. That was really hard. And what happens is that all of these disparate pieces, for some of you it's trauma, for some of you it's just, like I said, undigested experiences. If you read those past journals, they start weaving together in a larger tapestry of your life that's yours. All right? And it also gives you, once again, perspective, which is really important for you. Pay attention to your energy at this time. Notice for 9s, can you feel when it's getting dead? Do you notice the difference between calm and kind of that lethargic dead energy? 1s, do you notice the difference between kind of a rigid correctness and just some serenity, that I can accept what's going on right here, right now? Sometimes a walk in nature is what will do it for you. All right. And for 8s, can you tell when you kind of have your, kind of a grounded life force, or it's just this, this kind of lust that I got to move into action, and I'm rigid and I'm trying to control everything? I'm trying to control. And then you get tighter and tighter. And notice eights, when you start to really withdraw, that's a clue. Okay, sometimes withdrawal into, I have a dear friend who's an eight. She does art, she paints, she draws. Other people write. Sometimes it's nature. But coming into something creative, that's like life force moving through you, eights. But if it's that, can you feel the difference? And start paying attention to what is it like when I'm kind of in that reactive excess lust energy of eating, drinking, staying out, pounding too hard. And when am I in more grounded presence where that big energy is solid in me? I look around, I have perspective, I see you, I see that what you're going through, and it's hard for you too. And I see the perspective of you. That's the compassion piece. The other piece for you is around issues of power. 8, 9s, and 1s tend to respect people who are strong. And so sometimes you're testing others and you're testing the power of other. It's like while 2, 3s, and 4s are adapting to the environment, 8, 9s, and 1 are trying to adapt the environment to themselves so that you feel comfortable and in control. 8s, you may dominate and control the environment. 9s, you kind of plant yourself in it to try to make it nice and comfortable. I'm here and I'm kind of irritated if you interrupt me. 1s, you want to make it more flawless, more perfect. Not always about cleaning. And 1s, you know that, don't you? Because not all of you are clean. Some of you are. But it shows in a way I want to control the family to be just the way they are. And I'll worry a lot if it's not exactly as I think. Notice, how are you controlling right now? Because that's a way for you to manage your anger right now. And there's something else you can do. Get some distance between like the inner observer that can observe when I'm starting to control. And then I can say, okay, there it is again. I get a little space so I don't have to do it on autopilot. And I'm like the hugest control freak, trust me. I have to tell you, that has been what's been hardest for me, is that I can't control. I just get so mad, so angry when something feels like it's getting taken away, and it's forcing me to not be able to see someone who matters to me. So just notice that. It's like, am I going to lose myself in this? And that's the other big thing for you all, is who am I? Will I lose myself if I allow you to affect me? And we're in really tight quarters right now. Notice when you're harsh and demanding on your environment. And notice when you do this to yourself. Inner child stuff, I know, it can seem like overly soft, but it's really good work for you. I have this picture of my husband where he's young and he's holding this puppy. And it's almost like I can see that innocence, right? You have that. Find a picture of that inner child. That's what's getting, hit upon right now. All right? Here's another thing I do. I do a lot of grief work with people. And one of the things we do is we create a loss timeline. So you can actually write it down and look at other times that you have felt loss in your life. And loss isn't just a person. It could be loss of a relationship. You moved to another place. You didn't make the sport you wanted to make. You lost a job. A loss timeline gives you a wider perspective. It's no longer either or. You start to see how this shaped this. I did that, and it made me do, it ushered in this decision. Okay? And you also may want to see when you get caught in the struggle of digging in, and pause and look at the gift right in front of you. Sometimes the email of gratitude that someone sends you doesn't have an agenda. The kind email where somebody said, hey, thank you. It didn't have an agenda. They just appreciate you. Sometimes y'all are looking for an agenda, as if like you didn't deserve some sort of kindness in some sort of email. All right? Finally, anger. Your softer emotions get converted to anger. If you feel sad, you might get angry. If you feel afraid, you might get angry. And anger gets projected onto the environment. Pay attention to your body language and what you're feeling, because sometimes it's alluding to something softer. notice your intense response to things. And notice how you defend against your emotions and push them down. And come back. Breathe. When no one's around, just perhaps touch your heart with a little bit of kindness for yourself. Breathe in. And I remember one body type said, Leslie, I don't know what you mean by giving myself compassion. Like, what does that mean? What word works for you? Can you give yourself a little grace? Hate that word? What about gentleness? What about kindness? Use the word that feels right for you, but it's the word that brings you to your heart and helps you feel that softness inside of you, that child that still lives in you. And if you feel my resistance to my softness now, welcome it. Welcome the resistance. Be kind to your resistance. It's trying to protect you. And welcome the resistance with kindness. Because your spiritual practice is acceptance, welcoming, noticing, slowing, and finding ways to weave together the threads of those past undigested feelings into the present now, because you're having the strong reactions from undigested feelings, and bringing them into the present now so that you can have a little bit of perspective and get a wider view and recognize that I know you feel like when people say body types go, sometimes say, oh, everybody's doing the best they can. I don't feel that way. What if you could say maybe they're doing good enough? Or you could say, gosh, Leslie, I think everybody's doing the best they can. Notice your yes, no, when I say something. And just say, what's my experience? Because that's what matters here for y'all. What is my experience? Coming home to it, breathing into it, and going forth, knowing your position on this planet is important. It matters. You matter. And give yourself a little bit of kindness. And that'll help you look around, give others a little bit of kindness. And if you're a 9, you're probably more vulnerable to that. For you, you may want to really work on giving yourself some kindness. But I would say regardless of whether you're an 8, 9, or 1, you are the self-forgetting triad. So for you, it's coming home to yourself. On Wednesday mornings during this pandemic, Renee Carnegie are doing groups. You're welcome. You can sign up last minute, pay what you can. If your income stream has been affected, just pay what you can. Obviously, Renee's and my income stream is affected. We would appreciate payment, but if you can't pay, come, all right? So the link is right below here, and you can register, and we would love to see you. And if you are a body type, right below, does this resonate for you? How? Feel free to write below. Your comments are so helpful for me. I read every single one. I've been able to reply to them more now because I'm not out giving workshops as more, so I feel like I'm getting to know you more. So go ahead and reply, and it would be great to hear from you. So take care of yourself, and one day at a time. I think you're the center that is, a little bit more attuned to the present moment, but one day at a time. Take care.